Hello, and welcome to another insanely epic episode of the Hellion Rebellion Rock and Roll Association, brought to you by Holly Geist. Yes, that is the washing machine you hear in the background. I have other things to do besides just make videos. Before we get started, we have moments of silences. Both, coincidentally, I found out about 2 or 3 hours ago. The first one goes out to Cindy Chi. She was the vocalist of a prominent ska band called the Impalers from San Francisco. The second one, legendary, big time here, goes out to the biggest bird in the yard, an Axeman's Axeman, the legendary Jeff Beck. That's a blow right there. So let's go ahead and give our moments of respect to these two fine, musical, talented individuals. Musically talented individuals. Okay. May Cindy Chi and Jeff Beck find the loving embrace of the angel's wings as thrilling as the magical music they made here on Earth. So tonight we're going to talk about a few things. The first one is a record label called New Red Archives. Again, we're talking about a San Franciscan-based label. They were originally from Brooklyn. They moved to San Francisco in 1986, 87. Originally, they specialized in New York hardcore, and then once they moved out west, they started specializing in West Coast hardcore. They would eventually get bought up by Cleopatra Records, and I think to this day, that is how it still stands. New Red Archives would, in the late 80s, early 90s, they would put out vinyl 7 inches for the most part. And you got to remember, in the late 80s, early 90s, vinyl was all but dead. CDs were becoming king. Tapes were still being traded. But here was a record company who was still willing to put out vinyl, and not only that, they specialized in colored vinyl. Mostly different shades or variations of the color red, hence the name New Red Archives. So, this compilation, At War with Society, there's not a bad song on here. Every single band, every single song on here is great. So I'm just going to start it from the beginning. And the first band we're going to talk about is a band called Christ on a Crutch. Christ on a Crutch was originally from Washington, D.C., they would move to Seattle. And they were around in the mid to late 80s, but they weren't really all that well known until the nation's eyes and ears, or the world's eyes and ears, were focused on Seattle in the early 90s. And that's when you started hearing the name Christ on a Crutch. And though they weren't really a part of the whole grunge rock thing, they opened up for bands like the Melvins and Nirvana and stuff like that. I think they only put out 2, maybe 3 records. They broke up in the mid 90s. I would guess 95. But one of their biggest claim to fame is one of the members of the band, Nate Mendel. He would go on to play in another band called Sunny Day Real Estate, and then from Sunny Day Real Estate, he would actually go on to play bass for the Foo Fighters, which I was today years old when I found that out. I'm like, I recognize him now. It never dawned on me that's who that guy was. So yeah, he plays bass for the Foo Fighters. Other than that, Christ on a Crutch was a pretty inflammatory punk rock hardcore band. Nothing more to say there. So how about we go ahead and listen to them. And before we do, I want what I'm going to show you here while the music is playing is another shout out or a communication to Garage Geek, who does these strange music tournaments or something. He gave me 5 electronic songs, artist songs, for me to rate. 5 being the worst, 1 being the best. One of these bands is not even an electronic artist. They're an old rock and roll band from Shreveport, Louisiana. So I don't even know how this band even got in here. So I'm going to be rating these bands that he wants me to rate. And if you haven't subscribed to Garage Geek, go ahead and do so. He talks about all things comic book related, all things Funko Pop related, and all things music. Very interesting fellow there. So let's go ahead, get started with Seattle, Washington's Christ on a Crutch.
Yeah!
Okay, there was Christ on a Crutch. That is some serious hardcore music right there. So yeah, there's my five electronic artists for Garage Geek. I have to admit, it was very hard for me to pick Head Like a Hole over Gary Newman. There's a lot of songs Gary Newman does that I like better than Nine Inch Nails' Head Like a Hole. Klaatu is a band or group or artist that I've been kind of into the last year or two now. I know a lot of these bands aren't in my wheelhouse, but I actually listen to this stuff probably more than you think I do. Alright, so let's listen to one more song. This one is coming from the UK Subs. The UK Subs got started in London, England back in 1976. If there's a big four of the first generation or the first wave of British punk rock, it would be the Sex Pistols, the Clash, the Damned, and probably the UK Subs. In some form or another, the UK Subs have always existed, and these old geezers are still at it today. They're an amazing band. Their first three records are absolutely perfect. I've always admired the singer's tone and his voice, and as I should, because he was originally an R&B singer before they decided to start a hardcore punk band. So, let's check out London's own UK Subs. That's a shorty. UK Subs for you there. So, there's my video. I hope you liked it. Garage Geek. There's my 5 picks or ratings for the songs you wanted me to rate. Other than that, I hope everybody's doing well. And keep the faith. Keep the rock rolling. Thanks for the enthusiasm, and I will see you next time. Thank you.